Hello and welcome. Page 304. Never again to darken the door of, and but now figured to be his place of very last resort, the Antiosis Canadians of the Quebec subgenus, sinister and duplicitous, but when it came down to it, rather hapless political insurgents he'd twice availed of services through the offices of Lola's sister, now the only persons anywhere he could claim somehow owed him a kindness, since the affair of the heart. In his green and scally cap over scarf on Watertown Center's underground Grey Line platform, when the first hot loose load fell out into the baggy slacks and down his leg and out around his high heel, he still had only his red high heels with the crossing straps, which the slacks were long enough to mostly hide. Poor Tony closed his eyes against the ants formicating up and down his arm's skinny length and screamed a soundless interior scream of utter and soul-scalded woe. His beloved boa fit almost entirely in one breast pocket, where it stayed in the name of discretion. On the crowded train itself, he discovered he'd gone in 3 weeks from being a colorful and comely, albeit freakishly comely person, to being one of those loathsome urban specimens that respectable persons on tea trains slide and drift quietly away from without even seeming to notice they're even there. His scarf of paper towels had come partly untaped. He smelled of bilirubin and yellow sweat, and wore week-old eyeliner that simply did not fly if one needed a shave. There had been some negative urine incidences as well in the slacks to round matters out. He had simply never in his life felt so unattractive or been so sick. He wept silently in shame and pain at the passage of each brightly lit public second's edge, and the driver ants that boiled in his lap opened needle-teethed little insectile mouths to catch the tears. He could feel his erratic pulse in his thigh. The Grey Line was of the green and orange line, trundling behemoth-type train, and he sat all alone at one end of the car, feeling each slow second take its cut. When it descended, the seizure felt less like a separate, distinct health crisis than simply the next exhibit in the corridor of horrors that was the old cold bird. In actual fact, the seizure, a kind of synaptic firefight in poor Tony's desiccated temporal lobes, was caused entirely by withdrawal not from heroin, but from plain old grain alcohol, which was Codenex plus cough syrup's primary ingredient and balm. He consumed upward of 16 little 80-proof bottles of Codenex per day for 8 days, so was cruising for a real neurochemical bruising when he just up and stopped. The first thing that didn't augur well was a shower of spark-sized phosphenes from the ceiling of the swaying train. This, plus the fiery violet aura around the heads of the respectables, who'd quietly retreated as far as possible from the various puddles in which he sat. Their clean pink faces looked somehow stricken, each inside a hood of violent flame. Poor Tony didn't know that his silent whimpers had ceased to be silent, was why everyone in the car had gotten so terribly interested in the floor tiles. That was 304. Good night.